Yep, just beautiful sweet potato after beautiful sweet potato. Guten gardening, everybody. Today I'm going to be harvesting some Beauregard sweet potatoes. I have 4 17-gallon totes that we've been growing sweet potatoes in for the last couple of years. And this season I'm attempting to see if there's any substantial difference between the slips that we purchased at Taterman and the slips that we started here at Guten gardening. So I've got 2 containers of each. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this harvest, see what we got here. Hopefully we've got some nice sized Beauregard sweet potatoes. But I guess that is to be determined. Well, first things first, I've got to pull some of this stinging nettle that's growing in here all over the place. I tell you what, a lot of people use stinging nettle for a lot of purposes, medicinal purposes, etc. I got to be careful. It looks like I don't want to uncover any sweet potatoes yet, but this stuff spreads so quickly. If you ever want to learn why they call it stinging nettle, go in here and touch a leaf without your gloves on. That doesn't feel good. What a difference a day makes. Yesterday was so windy, I couldn't even hear myself think. Today it's peaceful, calm. And you're going to notice for some of these vines here, there's some frost damage. We've had a couple of light frosts before I got out here. I would say this Beauregard, some of these vines are probably pretty close to about 7 feet, 6-7 feet in length. So that's a good sign. So the first 2 that I'm going to harvest are going to be from slips we grew here. We started here at Guten gardening. I did plant 3 slips in each of these containers. So we'll see. To me, the vines look, even though they were pretty long, they don't look the healthiest. Obviously, I don't mean just the frost damage. I mean the thickness of the stem, but we'll see. All right, here we go. You can see our 3 slips right here. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over and empty it out. Now, one of the reasons why we grow Beauregard sweet potatoes is we've had some pretty good success with them in the past, and that's fairly typical. If we see success, we like to try to grow again. Now, as I walk around this container, I see a couple pretty nice, like really nice sweet potatoes growing right here on the outside. So I'm going to start on the side where I see these really, really nice sweet potatoes. Now, I said that Beauregard has been successful for us in the past. In a container, that sweet potato, I mean, even if it wasn't in the container, that's beautiful. And I'm going to pull this other one out of here. Oh, it goes farther down. Just break this apart. I want to snap it off. But as I feel down in here, take a look at this beauty. Look at that sweet potato. So again, the ones we started at home so far are off to a great start. 0 damage from critters. 0 frost damage, just really healthy looking sweet potatoes. And we'll pull them off the outside first, but I tell you what, I exposed something on the inside when the bale broke apart here, and I think you can probably see it now. Look at this sweet potato. Oh my, they're beautiful. One of the things that I haven't had a lot of so far are substantially consistent, substantially sized sweet potatoes. And this container is setting the record straight. I want to say that our best ever sweet potato harvest probably was out of these containers, and we haven't always done equally well. Someone commented in a recent video that their most successful harvest was their first year, and they've been trying to match that ever since. Well, I get that. I really get that. I think that's it for those 3 plants. Let me make sure. Yep, just beautiful sweet potato after beautiful sweet potato in this first container. All right, here's what happens. We get these beautiful sweet potatoes out of the first one, and now we're sitting here with high expectations and a lot of hope for the rest of the bins that we have here. We get 3 more. Hey, if you're enjoying the harvest so far, don't forget to give us a like, okay? That helps us out a ton. Well, as you might suspect, container number 2 looks pretty similar to container number 1. 3 slips, once again. This one had a few more weeds or other things growing in here. It wasn't just the stinging nettle. There were other weeds that we saw that I had to pull out of here. So I don't know if that'll be indicative of anything. All right, let's see what we got underneath here. Ooh. Oh, interesting. So I heard something snap when I picked up this container, and that's because this sweet potato had grown into the ground underneath. That happens sometimes with these. Now this time, I'm not going to go around the outside edge and spoil everything that, that you can see. I'll just pull it like this off to the side so we can see another massive sweet potato. See how this whole root is connected at one, but the biggest part up here, oh man, this is so exciting. We'll tell you something. I love sweet potato harvest so much. I always go back and forth. I always say it. I'm glad I don't have to choose between potatoes and sweet potatoes because I don't think I could. Here's another one. These are enormous. Oh, wow, that looks like a boomerang. So one of the things I'll tell you about the mix that I'm growing in, the mix for both the ones that we started here and the ones that are store-bought is similar. We've got some of our compost in here. You can see the perlite. That's that white stuff in there to help with drainage. This is multiple years of mix that we've been working on and amending as we've gone through the seasons. We fed these with bone meal twice during the growing season, and for whatever reason the place where we had them sitting was partially shaded, I would say, but we tried to keep everything as consistent as possible between the different containers so that we could really get a good estimation as to what might be, any difference. We tried to limit differences, I should say. So if we're going to say let's compare our results, we want to make sure that that's exactly what we can do, or as best as possible. Now I should also tell you how we started these sweet potatoes this season. The ones that we started here at the house were started in soil. So everything that we grew that were Guten gardening sweet potato slips, instead of water this season, we just did soil because we found soil to be a little bit more prolific in terms of production, and the sweet potatoes seem to thrive longer, produce slips longer. As long as you keep the mix that they're growing in watered, you're just fine. I should also mention that these sweet potatoes have been in the ground for about 115 days. All right, this slip did not produce like the others. You can see a whole bunch of potential, but for whatever reason, these didn't really bulb up. So instead, for this particular one, we've got sweet potato fries. Well, what a way to start this harvest. 2 containers with just really, really nicely formed sweet potatoes on them. This Beauregard variety is really tasty. It's not too sweet. It's not too stringy. It is absolutely delicious. And we're going to have a whole bunch more here. Now it's time to see how the Taterman varieties did. Oh, and it seems like I should have mentioned one more thing. The sweet potato slips that we started here were from sweet potatoes we harvested last season. So all of these Beauregard sweet potatoes are from last season's Beauregard sweet potatoes, or really one sweet potato in particular. Well, one thing I know is that the stinging nettle is far more abundant in the Taterman variety, but that has nothing to do with where I got the sweet potatoes, but definitely the proximity to where the rest of this is growing in the wild. I hope that that's not an inhibitor. It's not really something that we could help. Unfortunately, wow, there's just root after root of this stuff. Well, I know I can grow that, huh? Overall, the vines appear to be similar in structure, similar in length, that is. So that's good. We are hopeful for some more sweet potatoes. I mean, it's not like there's a possibility of a loser in this situation in terms of us. The reason we would do this experiment would be to see, the ones we grow at home are less expensive. And because I looked around on the outside for the first one, I'm also looking around here and I see one sweet potato right there. But in this instance, I think most are hiding inside. Well, I was trying to gently move this out of the sunlight so it wasn't flashing in your eyes, and the whole thing broke apart. And what did I discover down in here? Not much, just a whole bunch of beautiful sweet potatoes. Look at this first bunch coming off of here. Fantastic. And I'm going to pull the rest of these. I'm just going to dig up here. I don't want to damage anything because, oh, there's some definite size to these. I'm not as sure that they're that the overall size is quite as big. Like, there's not one here that stands out to me as being exactly as large as the other ones yet, and yet they're a pretty nice size. So maybe not quite as big so far, but we're early into this second container. There does seem to be more attached to each individual slip, but it's just not the same amount of size to it. Now, I'm not complaining because those were beautiful, but that's where this comparison comes in. We want to see how everything compares to each other. Okay, here's the next set. Another pretty nice one right here. Not as expansive so far, but still really great size. You know, I'll take single serving size. I've made that very clear in my other videos. I'll take single serving size, and since we don't have to worry about pesticides or anything like that here because we grow everything organically, I just wash these off really nicely. You know, what I'm going to be able to do here, because I have a grand total of a half a dozen slips in each one, I'm going to be able to weigh everything up and divide it by the total number of slips. Ooh, nice. And then I'll get an average weight per slip, and that's how I'll determine the winner of this very limited experiment. Again, there can't be any losers if I'm getting really nice sweet potatoes. Wouldn't you agree? I would argue that that's the case. My hope would be, oh, nice. Well, after 3 containers so far in this harvest, there's a pretty clear winner, in my opinion. And of course, that's my family, because we've got some amazing sweet potatoes out of here. Now, I would say that so far, in terms of overall large size, the Homegrown is beating out Taterman. Let's open up this last container. The thing you got to remember, though, is if you're starting your own sweet potato slips, I mean, that takes up space. And if you're buying sweet potato slips from elsewhere, you can keep those in a jar until you're ready to plant them. It really limits the amount of space. So that's a huge benefit for buying sweet potato slips. Now, you just need to make sure you're buying from a place where you trust the people growing them, because otherwise you can't really control, you can't do any quality control in that way. Not a single sweet potato on the outside, but that doesn't really mean anything. Look in here. It's like cracking open a sweet potato geode here to get down in here and see some beautiful, beautiful sweet potatoes. Again, not the same massive size, but you don't have to see them on the outside for there to be good production on the inside. And I should have said again, as I was gathering these out, there were more weeds in this one, but oh, beautiful. Oh, a little bit of what I would say is probably some frost damage here. See that little split? Well, this sweet potato in and of itself, though, is really nice. So what I'm going to do, I'll let it cure for a little bit of time, but I'll cut this and eat this and use this sweet potato earlier on. And one of the things to note about these, you do not have to wait to eat sweet potatoes. You can eat them right away. It's just that their flavor profile definitely changes and typically gets a lot sweeter as they cure. Oop, I just scratched this one. Oh, nice. You see a pretty similar theme here. Most of these are a little bit longer. Even the bigger ones, it's not that compact sweet potato that you might expect to get from, say, a Georgia Jet, which has a very, very distinct shape, in my opinion. All right, let's break the rest of this geode open here gently, because we don't want to pull and break off any sweet potatoes. We want to see them right down in here. Lots of single serving size here. Who knows? I mean, the overall weight may be very comparable, because as I said, it seems like maybe these sweet potatoes are producing more even though they're smaller. But that's something we'll determine here in a couple of minutes. Who knows, in YouTube time, it might be faster than that. And here is the third slip. Just all around beautiful sweet potatoes. This is probably the smallest grouping that I've had. Well, similar, I guess it pays off, similar to the second container for the Guten Gardening grown sweet potatoes. You see how small these are? If these had been able to keep developing, look how many are on here. Yeah, so this is the smallest set. All right, we got everything out of these 2 containers. Let's take, that's a walnut from the squirrels. I have not had a single harvest. I haven't always shown it, but I haven't had a single harvest this season where I haven't had at least one walnut. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the difference between the two. All right, let's try to do a quick comparison between these 2 piles. So the pile on the right, these are the ones that we bought from Taterman. These are therefore the purchased sweet potato slips. I would say this is probably the largest sweet potato. And then the ones that we grew and started here at Guten Gardening, it's hard to pick. I would say probably this is the largest sweet potato. And you can see a comparison here. One of these is substantially bigger. Now let's look at overall weight between these 2 sets. All right, from our variety that we started here, we got just over 1 pound per slip. And for the Taterman, we ended up with 5.25 pounds, so just under a pound per slip. So the sum total of everything is that we got a little bit more weight from the slips that we started here at Guten Gardening, but we got bigger sweet potatoes definitely from those. That being said, this is an incredibly limited experiment and one where we wanted to just figure out, is there a substantial difference? It seems like there's maybe a little, but there are so many factors that go into choosing how you start sweet potatoes. So we're not discouraging you at all from buying sweet potato slips, especially since, again, starting sweet potato slips takes up some space. But it's definitely cheaper. It's definitely a way where you're not spending money, because I can take these that I grew, these really nice sweet potatoes, and I can put these in soil and start them here in February or March and get some really nice slips to go again next season. Now, can we do better than a pound per slip? We can double that. You better believe we can do better, and we will continue to strive to grow the best sweet potatoes we can here at Guten Gardening. Hey, we hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, don't forget to give us a like, leave us a comment, remember to share and subscribe, and most importantly, remember, when you're with us, you are good to grow.